When talking about BTS, their daily lives are often captured on camera, including their food intake. The stomach capacities of these 7 members vary widely. Some are easily satisfied with just a few bites, while others eat a staggering amount. Let's discuss the BTS members' rankings from those who eat the least to those who eat the most. Number 7. J-Hope. Starting this list from the bottom position, we have the fans' beloved main dancer, who turns out to have the smallest food portion in his group. J-Hope consistently always occupies the last spot when it comes to the ability to finish food in large quantities. The eating habit of this man, who always appears cheerful, is already very well known and well understood by his group mates, as well as by the fans who often pay attention. He very often feels full after just the first few bites, a thing that strongly contrasts with his friends. While the other group members are still busy chewing enthusiastically and even adding to their portions, he usually has already put down his cutlery, leaning back relaxedly in his chair because his stomach simply cannot afford to accommodate additional food intake. If you often take the time to watch various reality shows of their daily lives, you will definitely often notice funny yet sweet moments when he is unable to finish his normal food portion. In the end, he will voluntarily and thoughtfully give the leftover food to the younger group members, who are indeed always ready to accommodate extra food. As a fun fact that we can turn into casual insight, this relatively small stomach capacity is actually quite in line with the habits of many professional dancers or athletes. They are often more accustomed to consume food in small portions, but with a more frequent frequency, in order to keep the stomach from feeling too full and heavy when having to perform various intense and exhausting physical movements. Even though his food portion is very small, he still highly appreciates good food and always looks so happy when enjoying his favorite dish, even if only with a very limited portion. The fact that he often shares his leftover food does not at all mean that he does not appreciate the food served, but purely because the limit of his fullness is indeed reached very quickly by his body. The limitation of his stomach capacity makes his consumption pattern very different compared to his friends around him, who are able to devour food many times more than him. Of course, the details of this eating habit can vary slightly depending on certain situations, his tight daily schedule, or his fatigue level on that day, but generally his position as the individual with the cutest food portion is widely acknowledged by everyone. This makes a lot of sense, considering his extraordinarily high physical activity during dance practice clearly requires adequate energy intake, but perhaps the way his digestive system and brain process the feeling of fullness responds very quickly. So, if someday you happen to have the chance to eat together, get ready to help him finish his food portion, which will almost certainly never be finished if he has to eat it alone without anyone's help around him. Number 6. Suga. Moving on to the next order in the 6th position, we find a figure famous for his eating style, which is very calm, relaxed, and tends to be slower compared to the others. If observed carefully on various occasions, he often gives the impression that the activity of eating is done merely to survive and replenish lost energy, not the type of person who gets too excited to the point of losing control when seeing delicious dishes served right before his eyes. His food portion is actually at an average level, or maybe even slightly below the average adult male in general, and he clearly does not have a giant stomach capacity capable of accommodating extreme amounts of food. One of the most distinctive and easily recognizable things about his eating habit is the way he chews his food, which is very slow, careful, and not in a rush at all, a sight that contrasts greatly with some of his friends, who can devour a large portion of food in just the blink of an eye. Even though the portion he finishes is never too much, he actually has a very high appreciation for the culinary world and highly values the taste of a quality dish. He is often the one most diligent in exploring new foods, including consistently seeking and trying various halal foods while traveling on tour abroad in order to get a safe and comfortable culinary experience. As a casual fact that is fun for us to learn, this slow eating style is actually very similar to the habit of our friend in our hangout group, who is always the last to finish eating because they take too long enjoying every bite, while the others are already getting ready to go home. Chewing food slowly is scientifically proven to be very good for the human digestive system and gives enough time for the brain to receive a signal of fullness from the stomach, thus naturally capable of preventing someone from overeating habits. Therefore, it becomes very natural and makes sense that we very rarely see him eat in brutal or excessive portions to the point of getting severely overly full. Another interesting thing is, even though he himself does not finish a lot of food, he often voluntarily acts as a chef who cooks dishes for his friends when they are traveling together. This shows that he gets his own satisfaction by ensuring the people around him eat well and are full, rather than just focusing on his own food portion. The details of this habit can of course vary depending on the type of food menu being served, but overall, he occupies the 6th position with a quite moderate portion and an eating style that maintains rhythm very well. It's interesting to see how he can still maintain energy to perform optimally on the world music stage, even with food fuel that is consumed slowly and in amounts that are not excessive every day. Number 5, Jimin. Right in the 5th position, we encounter a perfectionist figure who turns out to have a quite complex and calculated relationship with food, as well as his daily diet pattern. Basically, he really likes various delicious foods and is actually capable of finishing a fairly large portion, especially if the menu served is various meat preparations or his reliable warm soupy dishes, like rich-tasting kimchi stew. However, he has to occupy this 5th place because he is known as one of the individuals who are the most strict and disciplined in controlling his food intake in order to maintain his physical shape and performance stamina on stage. While in a packed promotional period or during long concert tour preparations, his food portion will be cut drastically through a strict diet. But while enjoying a free day or when the schedule is somewhat loose, only then will he allow himself to eat in much larger and satisfying amounts. It is this habit of controlling food portions selectively that makes his total overall food intake unable to match those in the higher ranks. The casual info we can glean from his routine is how important the understanding of the balance between incoming calorie intake and daily energy expenditure is. He seems to know exactly when his body needs more fuel intake and when he has to strongly restrain himself, a pattern very similar to the routines of professional athletes who constantly adjust their diet patterns based on tight match schedules. Of course, this extreme method of food portion control is highly dependent on the demands of professionalism of his job in the entertainment industry, which always requires the most optimal physical appearance in front of the camera. And the details of its application can change at any time according to recommendations from trusted nutritionists. If you are lucky to see him while enjoying his favorite food without any diet restrictions, you might not believe that he usually regulates his food portion very strictly, because the way he eats in those free moments truly shows that he absolutely enjoys every bite with full happiness. His firmness of heart in resisting the temptation of various delicious foods for the sake of maintaining his professionalism is something that highly deserves high appreciation, considering how much access to delicious food is always available around them while carrying out scheduled activities in various countries. So he is a real example of someone who, deep in his heart, actually loves eating a lot, but has an extraordinarily strong self-control to consciously hold himself back in order to achieve career goals and highly specific physical performances that demand extremely high dedication. Number 4, V. In the fourth order, we find a figure who is very unique in terms of his taste and food portion because he occupies a very solid middle position thanks to his deep love for various specific dishes, even though at the same time he is also known to be quite picky about certain food ingredients. V is the type of person who can eat in very large and satisfying portions as long as the food served in front of him is his favorite food, but his portion can shrink drastically if the menu contains ingredients he dislikes. His love for fast food is already very well known among fans all over the world. He can very enthusiastically finish a large burger, complete with an abundant portion of French fries, without facing any difficulties at all. Fast food indeed has its own appeal, especially for those who have very packed schedules and frequently travel between countries, because its consistent taste and instant serving greatly help save time amidst busy filming or rehearsal schedules. In addition to Western-style fast food, he also has a special room in his stomach for various delicious traditional Korean dishes, with one of his main favorites being japchae, a traditional Korean stir-fried glass noodle dish that is rich in sweet and savory flavors. Japchae itself is a very iconic food in South Korea, made from chewy, sweet potato noodles and stir-fried together with various kinds of vegetables cut lengthwise, minced or sliced beef, then seasoned with soy sauce, toasted sesame oil, a little sugar, and a sprinkle of sesame seeds on top, producing a combination of textures and flavors that is very appetizing. This food is usually always present in various important celebration events in Korea, such as birthdays or national holidays, so eating it often brings a nuance of home warmth and pleasant celebration. The fact that japchae is one of his favorite foods shows that he has a good appreciation for classic dishes that require time and precision in their making process, even though he also highly enjoys the practicality of his regular fast food joints. However, there is another side to his eating habit that keeps his position stuck in the fourth order and cannot climb any higher, which is his quite selective or picky nature towards several types of cooking ingredients, especially certain vegetables and beans. On many occasions caught on camera over the years, viewers often notice moments when he slowly and carefully sets aside food ingredients he doesn't like from his plate, or when the older group members help him set aside those vegetables so he can enjoy his meal more comfortably and heartily. The interesting casual insight from this picky eating habit is that it is actually a very common biological phenomenon, where there are some people born with a condition of taste buds that are far more sensitive to bitter tastes compared to other people. People with this extra sensitivity are often called super tasters, where the papillae or taste buds on their tongues respond to certain substances in vegetables as something very bitter and unpleasant. So their rejection of vegetables is not a spoiled attitude, but purely a natural response from their own bodies. As time goes by and age increases, someone's appetite usually undergoes significant changes in maturation, a thing that also happens to him when he, who used to be completely unable to drink bitter coffee and preferred hot chocolate or sweet soda, slowly began to be able to enjoy a cup of cold black coffee, or what in Korea is often referred to by the term ah, alias iced Americano. The evolution of his appetite becomes a very pleasant process to witness, proving that human tongue preferences are highly dynamic and can continue to adapt to environments and increasingly diverse culinary experiences in various countries he visited during world tours. Aside from his eating habits, he also has a very sweet relationship with fruits, especially strawberries, where he is often seen visiting a strawberry farm owned by an acquaintance and bringing home boxes of large, fresh strawberries to be shared with his groupmates, showing his true nature, which is very generous and loves to share sweet foods. When their group holds a cooking show filming or a relaxed outdoor vacation program, the dynamic that occurs in the kitchen is truly interesting to observe. He often takes the role of washing dishes and cleaning the kitchen area while playing relaxing songs to build the mood, while his other friends are busy cutting ingredients and cooking in front of the stove. Then, when the food is cooked and served on the table, he will devour it very heartily as long as the menu suits his taste, and his food portion can instantly adjust to the food portions of the members at the top of this list. His ability to eat in large portions is also strongly supported by his energy needs. As a vocalist with a deep baritone voice, he requires strong abdominal muscle and respiratory support when singing live on stage. And the energy to do that, of course, comes from the calorie intake he consumes daily. The combination of his love for specific foods, his portion that can instantly adjust to his taste, and his culinary preference changes over time make his eating style very distinct, very human, and very easy to relate to the eating habits of many people in real life who also can only eat a lot if the menu perfectly hits the spot in their hearts. The dynamic of his eating habit gives its own color in their daily interactions, creating various warm moments of togetherness at the dining table when they share portions with each other, adjusting menu orders so everyone is satisfied, and ensuring that every group member gets enough energy intake to undergo their packed activities in the international music industry, which heavily drains their physical energy and creative minds. Interestingly again, the way he arranges food or chooses a restaurant is often highly influenced by the aesthetics and atmosphere of the place, showing that for him, the dining experience is not just about satisfying hunger, but also about enjoying the visual ambiance, the layout of the plates, and the music playing in the background, making the act of dining a complete and holistic sensory experience. Number 3. RM. Entering the top 3 positions, we are greeted by the group leader who not only has a tall and large physical stature, but also a stomach capacity that is very proportionate to his physical size. RM consistently shows that he has a very healthy appetite, a fairly massive food portion, and an extraordinarily high appreciation for various types of dishes, especially warm and fulfilling noodle-based dishes. His love of noodle dishes is already an open secret among fans. He can easily finish bowl after bowl of kalguksu, a traditional Korean knife-cut noodle dish served with a warm, savory broth, usually cooked with various fresh seafood or slices of pumpkin that provide a natural sweet taste to the broth. Besides kalguksu, he is also very fond of jjajangmyeon, thick, savory, and slightly sweet black bean sauce noodles, which is one of the most popular and legendary delivery foods all across South Korea. Jjajangmyeon itself has a very interesting cultural history, originating from the culinary arts of Chinese migrant workers in the city of Incheon in the past, whose recipe was then adapted and modified in such a way that it perfectly fit the tastes of the local community, making it a very popular specialty food, affordable in price, and always the main choice in various simple celebration moments, like school graduation days or the tradition of eating together when someone has just moved into a new home. For RM, a large bowl of jjajangmyeon or kalguksu is not just a means to fill his stomach after a hard day's work, but also a source of psychological comfort amidst immense pressure he has to bear as the main face and spokesperson of the group in various prestigious international interviews. Aside from various types of noodle preparations, he also highly enjoys various perfectly grilled beef and pork dishes, and never covers up his fondness for certain fast foods, sweet candies, and light snacks that he often consumes while undergoing exhausting tour schedules abroad. This notably large food portion is very reasonable in terms of daily calorie counts and directly proportional to his body's metabolic needs. As a man with an above-average height and a routine of weightlifting that he has been regularly doing for the past few years, his body muscles naturally demand energy intake in much larger amounts just to maintain muscle mass and carry out basic daily metabolic functions. A casual fact that is very interesting to discuss from his eating habit relates to the biological fact that the human brain turns out to be one of the organs that absorb the most energy in our bodies, where the brain can consume about 20% of the total calories we burn every day in a resting state. Considering his position as a group leader, The main lyric writer who is constantly searching for inspiration, a song composer, and an individual who often has to think hard to strategize or give speeches in foreign languages, his brain clearly works very intensely every second, so it is very natural if he often feels hungry and needs carbohydrate intake in large amounts to keep his brain sharp and focused. Ironically, even though he has a very large appetite, a high appreciation for delicious food, and extraordinary intelligence, he is actually very famous for his adorable clumsiness when in the kitchen area. His inability to cut vegetables correctly or cook somewhat complex dishes without causing minor chaos often invites laughter from the other members, who will usually order him to step back from the stove and knives for the sake of mutual safety, and then take over the cooking task so he can just sit sweetly waiting for his food to cook. Because of this limitation in cooking, he relies very heavily on the incredibly fast and practical food delivery service system in his country, or often visits various high-quality restaurants and cafes after he finishes pursuing his hobby of going around visiting various art galleries and museums on the weekends. His relationship with food is basically a blend of the absolute need for physical fuel to support his large body, cognitive energy needs to support his genius mind, combined with the pure pleasure of exploring diverse flavors. This makes him one of the members with the most resilient and consistent stomach capacities in the group, who is always ready to finish food in large portions without much small talk, reflecting his personality, which is what it is, straightforward and always appreciating the little things that bring happiness in his life, including a warm bowl of noodles at the end of a tiring day. Number 2. Jungkook. In the second position sits the youngest member, who has a very legendary reputation as the owner of a stomach that seemingly never knows the feeling of being full, with an eating capacity that constantly makes many people amazed and astonished seeing his portions. Jungkook has an extraordinarily large appetite and a level of consumption that often goes far beyond the limits of reasonableness for adults in general, making him a figure who is always seen busy chewing something in almost every behind-the-scenes recording, whether it's in the backstage dressing room, during break times of music video shoots, or while gathering casually chatting at night. One of the most iconic moments that became undeniable proof of the greatness of his stomach capacity was when he was known to be able to finish 6 large cups of instant noodles alone late at night after completing a very exhausting concert. A very massive amount of calories, carbohydrates, and sodium to be consumed in one sitting. Besides instant noodles, he has a very deep love for typical Korean grilled meat dishes, especially samgyeopsal, or thick slices of pork belly grilled directly on the table, along with rows of whole garlic, fresh mushrooms, and served with various kinds of complementary lettuce. This culture of eating grilled meat is not just about consuming animal protein, but also a social activity and a culinary art in itself, where the process of grilling meat slowly until it reaches a chemical reaction called the Maillard effect, which creates a savory and fragrant browned crust on the meat surface, provides a sensation of visual and aromatic satisfaction before the food is finally wrapped in perilla leaves and put into the mouth. The casual info we can draw as a lesson from his seemingly brutal eating ability is very closely related to his extraordinarily active lifestyle, his love for various types of heavy sports like boxing, as well as the intense physical training routines he consistently does every day without knowing fatigue. Scientifically, someone who has a very dense percentage of muscle mass and an extreme cardio training routine will have a basal metabolic rate that is much higher compared to average regular people, which means his body automatically acts like a super efficient calorie-burning machine that constantly needs massive amounts of fuel supply so as not to lose its muscle mass. All the mountainous portions of food he consumes do not end up being bothersome fat accumulations at all, but are directly processed quickly by his digestive system to repair torn muscle tissues after hard training and converted into kinetic energy reserves that allow him to continue dancing, jumping, and singing with full power for hours on stadium-scale concert stages. Along with his growth from a teenage boy into an independent adult man, his appetite and eating ability have also developed very rapidly. From someone who was previously highly identical to the image of a sweet boy who always drank packaged banana milk, now he often experiments on his own in his home kitchen to create his unique and creative personal dish recipes. One of his most famous cooking creations lately, and which went viral everywhere, was a cold soba noodle recipe with a mix of fragrant perilla oil sauce mixed with savory mayonnaise and spicy chicken sauce that gives just the right kick of heat, proving that he is not only good at finishing food in large quantities, but has also begun to have a deep understanding of how to mix basic cooking spices to pamper his own tongue without having to always rely on food delivery. His seemingly limitless eating capacity is often a source of happiness and entertainment in itself for his older groupmates, who always feel happy, relieved, and proud to see their youngest member eat so heartily and grow into a strong and healthy man. His eating speed is also commendable. He can devour a large portion of food in a very short time, without looking like he's choking, a habit that perhaps formed from the demands of their very tight past schedules, where they had to eat as quickly as possible before having to go back up on stage to perform the next show. With a combination of a body metabolism equivalent to a racing engine, a growing passion for recipe exploration in the kitchen, and his ability to digest giant portions of food in the middle of the night without a problem, he secures his position very firmly in the second order as one of the biggest, most enthusiastic, and most energetic eaters who always successfully makes anyone who sees him feel hungry too and want to immediately join him to eat. Number 1. Jin. Finally, we arrive at the highest throne holder, the defending champion who so far is unmatched in all matters relating to finishing food in very spectacular portions. Jin is the true definition of a real culinary lover who is not only blessed with an extraordinarily large stomach capacity, but also has passion, enthusiasm, and full dedication in enjoying every dining moment he goes through every day. His reputation as the biggest and most gluttonous eater in this group did not come by chance or suddenly, but has been proven consistently since the beginning of their career years ago, where he often confessed that he had to consume heavy meals every few hours just to satisfy his constantly arriving hunger. And the peak was when he pioneered a highly iconic and legendary online food broadcast video content trend among fans. One of the most prominent signature traits, and one that always manages to invite awe, laughter, as well as hunger from his eating style, is his unnatural ability to put a very large portion of food into his mouth in one full bite. Whether it's a large piece of thick grilled steak, a big piece of crispy fried chicken thigh complete with its bone, or rolls of cold noodles that he chopsticks in a very large and thick amount. The way he chews the food in those giant bites with both cheeks puffed full like a hamster often gives a very satisfying visual sensation to anyone who sees it, an interesting phenomenon which is actually the main psychological appeal of the explosion of the food broadcast or mukbang culture trend that started in South Korea, where viewers feel highly entertained, no longer feel lonely when eating alone, and seem to directly feel the enjoyment of the food through the expression of the person eating on their screen. His favorite food menus are very diverse and not limited to just one type of cuisine, but often involve luxurious seafood dishes and rich-tasting soupy dishes, such as large whole crayfish or lobsters with sweet meat, Korean-style fried chicken with very crispy skin coated in a secret sweet and spicy sauce, various types of first-class premium quality grilled meat, as well as his all-time personal favorite dish, which is naengmun, or thin buckwheat noodles served in a soak of extremely cold beef broth mixed with blocks of ice cubes, whose taste will be even more perfect with the addition of a little spicy mustard and vinegar, making it a very refreshing food choice, especially if consumed at the peak of scorching summer. The casual fact that is fun for us to learn from the routine and eating habits of this first-place winner is about the positive biochemical and psychological effects caused by the activity of enjoying favorite foods consciously and with full gratitude, without being shadowed by guilt in the slightest. For many people in this modern era, including himself, who works in a highly pressurized industry, the activity of eating is often no longer just a basic biological process of inserting calories to stay alive, but has evolved into a very fast and effective stress coping mechanism, where endorphin and dopamine hormones will be immediately released abundantly by the brain when we consume delicious food, giving a feeling of relaxation, calmness, and instant happiness after being exhausted dealing with piles of work schedules from morning until late at night. In the past, when their group's financial condition was not as fortunate and established as it is now, he often voluntarily took a very important role as a nurturing figure in their small dorm, where he was willing to use his own personal pocket money to go to the traditional market, shop for raw food ingredients, and then cook in large portions in their cramped kitchen to ensure the other 6 members got enough nutritional intake after dancing all day, clearly showing that his love for food is also very closely related to the way he expresses deep affection, responsibility, and care to the people closest to him, like an eldest brother ensuring his younger brothers do not starve. Even though he consumes food in amounts that visually sometimes seem unreasonably large, he has a personal life motto or philosophy that is very funny, iconic, and he often repeats over and over again in front of the camera to entertain himself and his audience, which is the absolute belief that any food eaten with a joyful feeling and a happy heart will magically contain 0 calories, thus will not make you fat. Of course, medically, scientifically, that philosophy is just a joke, but psychologically, eating without anxiety has indeed been proven to be able to lower cortisol hormones that cause stress, which in turn makes the digestion process work much more optimally without hindrance. The perfect blend between his extraordinarily massive food portion, yet still maintaining health, his long history of love with experimenting cooking various delicious dish menus, his expressive way of eating that always successfully invites the appetite of anyone who sees, and his relaxed, anti-stress philosophy in enjoying various world dishes, makes his position at number 1 on this list very absolute, and will never be displaced by anyone, cementing his status as the one and only true culinary king without equal in the group.